Hello and welcome to this episode of Wi-Fi Friends. I'm Cameron. I'm joined by John.
Yeah, boy.
John, what have you been up to today? Have you got any fun?
You know what, Cameron? Philip Morris, I know you're a married boy,
Yes.
and I'm sure you've been living under that married rock. And you don't exactly know what's been going on in the land of America, but a little film called Avengers Infinity War just dropped on our faces.
It did occur to me when I was sitting in the theater that this might be the third and most exciting Avengers movie that has been released.
I would even argue it's the most exciting Avengers movie because we've had 18 movies ahead of it to hype us up for it.
So basically, for those listening, this isn't going to be your Daddy's Wi-Fi Friends episode. This isn't going to be a standard, non-formatted, barely planned out episode of Wi-Fi Friends. We're just going all in on Avengers. I'm sure we could release video reviews for this movie, but it's just a lot easier to have a discussion about it like friends, because this movie's big. It's a lot to unpack.
And I honestly have had so little people to be able to talk to about this in the amount of depth that we are going to talk to about it.
I honestly had a lot of conversations. There are people, but I've just been so busy. I booked the day off that it came out because I was like, I do not want to work in a cinema when this movie comes out because it's going to get spoiled for me by customers. So I booked it off. I went to see it the first day, and then since then I've just worked, so I haven't really talked to anyone. I talked a little bit to the arcade crowd people, but again, we were busy making videos, so I couldn't really do that. Yeah. So let's go on to our first topic, which is no spoilers. Spoiler-free review, the hardest thing I'll ever have to do in my entire life.
I know. I wanted to do this, though, because I think that it is worth mentioning to do it spoiler-free, even though every comic book website on the internet are doing a horrible job in not spoiling this movie.
Oh, definitely.
It has been bad. The news sites are just like, major plot point. But they frame it as if it's a question to try to, I guess, pretend that they're not spoiling it.
It's weird.
But, it's weird.
Even Marvel has been doing quite a bad job of spoiling it, because, I don't know how much of a spoiler this is, but they released a video, and I'm obviously not going to spoil it here. Don't worry. Those who are about to click off, I'm not going to spoil it. But they released a video, and they ask a question in it. Like you said, this is Marvel's video now. They go, oh, this is a question. And I'm like, no, you're spoiling the movie. I know it doesn't, come out and say it, but the implication. So don't worry, no spoilers.
We will vehemently let you know when we're going to go to spoiler territory. It'll be a hard cut, like most of my videos that I edit are.
100%. So, John, if you could give a spoiler-free review and maybe some kind of score or comparison or whatever, so just an idea of what you want people to think your opinion of this movie was.
It is honestly probably my favorite film that they've created, but also one of the hardest movies I've ever had to watch. It is, I've said this before, if you follow me on Twitter, it is relentless. It sets up a tone from Jump Street, and it's one of those things that it's funny, one of my good boys, Steve Baxi on the interwebs. Yeah, he posted, I think on his Facebook, he was talking about how some people say that Civil War is the movie when Marvel stopped holding your hand.
Yeah.
And he said, it's not that. Infinity War is the movie where they stopped holding your hand. And it knows that you're going in with all of this knowledge and all of these feelings about these characters, and so it is an emotional just drain and ride because you were already coming in with all this investment that they can literally just go all hits. So it's, instead of tuning up the band and playing a couple of their lesser known songs, they're just going straight in, all top 100, all hits, all day. You do not get a break.
I think that's a good description.
Very long-winded one, but
no, I mean that's a nice, concise, short, good description. Would you say there's a score you could give this movie, or would you just give it a definitely go see?
I was gonna say my score would be go see this right now. Like 5 Infinity Stones out of 5 Infinity Stones. Um, Honestly, like it's not to get hyperbolic, but everyone likes to say that we always like to compare movies to the original Star Wars movies. For some reason,
Yeah.
that is like the beacon of hope in geek fandom. That is the highest praise you can give something. And the phrase "The Empire Strikes Back" has been something that people have used for everything. But this is honestly, I think, for a generation of people. Like when I was in that movie theater and there were kids watching this movie, and there's this one kid who's like right next to us who in every scene, Thor comes out and he's like, "Oh, hey, it's Thor. Oh, it's Star-Lord." And then the end of this movie happens and he goes, I I don't know what's going on. And it's like I can imagine kids years ago watching Empire Strikes Back with Luke getting his hand chopped off and Darth Vader in the no and just being like, I don't know what's happening because they've never like experienced something this emotionally impactful. So like not to get hyperbolic, but this is going to be like held up for generations to come as an amazing film.
I like what you have to say there. I think you hit a lot of good points. I think Relentless is definitely a good description for this movie, and not just the way you meant it. I think in the way that it's relentless in terms of emotions, but also in terms of story beats. I think it does a really good job of. Again, I'm trying to not to just retread what you said and say it's amazing because it is amazing. I feel like you should say that up front.
You let me talk first, and I will get every talking point that I know in my nomenclature out of the way.
I have to say, I did find this amazing. I'm just going into this now. I think it's relentless with the story beats. I thought that was really good. A lot of Marvel movies and a lot of superhero movies and even team movies have the tendency to just kind of drag out beats, if you know what I'm saying. And this movie never really felt like it. I'm thinking back, and there was not really a scene that was more than, I think, I don't know, 5 minutes. I think all the scenes were really nice and concise, and you're always jumping around. There was always another thing to get to. There was always you never felt like, fucking hell, I'm bored of this now. Like, let's get back to blank, which I really appreciated. I think that this movie, I've only seen it once. I've had the opportunity to seen it a lot of the time, but I don't want to like oversaturate myself with it. I've only seen it once. It was definitely an amazing movie. It was fantastic. It was crazy. I do have a couple gripes, but it was really only those things where, when you come out of a movie and you go, that was perfect, and then like a day, 3 days, 4 days later, you start to think of things. So I don't really think that is that significant. If it took me a couple of days to think of anything wrong with the movie, So even though I will mention gripes later on, and I do have gripes with the movie, know that that this movie was fantastic. It blew me away. I did not have faith in this movie blowing me away. I thought it was going to be good. I thought it was going to be really good, but it genuinely blew me away, and it surprised me. And I think that if I was to give it a score, it was weird. I came out of the cinema and I was kind of dazed, and my initial score I gave it was like an 8.5. Purely because I think it's my second favorite Marvel movie. But I don't think that means it can't get the same score. So I'm going to give it a 9. My favorite Marvel movie of all time, I give a 9. And I feel like even though I don't like this just quite as much, it doesn't mean it doesn't deserve a 9. So
Which one's your favorite again?
My favorite is Iron Man 3. A lot of people give me flack about that.
I love Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3.
This is why we're friends.
Iron Man 3 is my favorite Marvel movie of all time. I can go into that in a whole other podcast, but just know that this movie was almost there. It was close to being a perfect superhero movie, and it definitely was the best team superhero movie I've ever seen in my life. Just before I finish the spoiler-free review, I do want to mention this, because this doesn't have any spoilers in it, but it is just a nice little tag on. The one thing that I think this movie suffers with, that I don't have to spoil any of the movie to mention, is I don't know if you would have had as much an impact with this movie unless you had watched some of the Marvel movies. If this was your first Marvel movie, I still think it's great. I still think it would be a really good movie. I have a friend who really enjoyed it, and she's gotten into Marvel through this movie, and now she's going backwards.
Oh, wow.
Which is, it's pretty good for a basically
I didn't know there were
the 18th
people like
movie.
that still left in the world.
Yeah. So I think that it's still enjoyable, but I think to get the full experience that me and you are going to be talking about on this podcast, I think you need to have watched this, from 10 years ago.
And I think that's one of the problems with how we're kind of shifting in like a movie, for a moviegoer's experience and stuff, is that this was like season 5 of a TV show.
Yeah.
But it's a movie, so it's it's weird because it's expecting you to have gone and done your homework basically before you come to the movie theater. While if you're watching a TV show, you'd be like, okay, of course not gonna know all these characters because I haven't been keeping up. But it's a weird what's the shared experience of a movie theater, and what does it mean, and all that stuff that I'm not smart enough to get into.
Philosophy.
Yeah, I'll call Steve.
All right. So, spoiler.
Hard cut.
Do not listen to this if you are the 3 people who have not watched this movie yet. I don't judge you. There is a lot of stuff that is important in people's lives. This movie is just
hard.
a movie. You should not sacrifice. There are people who have come to work to see this movie who are literally like, how long is the movie? And I'm like, 3 hours. They're like, okay, I think if I take a break here and then I get back to work here, I can, they're doing as much as they can to see the movie before spoilers happen. I feel bad for those people, so just know, do not come past this point. We are going to spoil the shit of this movie.
Yes.
Okay, John, I think we should talk about the main character. I think we should talk about the protagonist of Infinity War. This movie should not be called Avengers Infinity War because it is not about the Avengers.
It is about Mantis.
It would be akin to calling The Dark Knight the Joker. The movie is not about the Joker, it is about Batman. The Joker is the antagonist. In this movie, the Avengers are an antagonist.
Who knew Josh Brolin had it in him?
Oh my god. Look, I've never been...
He was honestly the part that I was most afraid of. I mean, I know Josh Brolin, I've never thought that he's a bad actor, but he's never been a guy that I've been super blown away with. I also never watched No Country for Old Men, so...
Neither did I. So I think that Josh Brolin, to me and to you, has always been this actor who's like, oh, dude, Josh Brolin's awesome. Never, oh, God, Josh Brolin's going to make me cry. Josh Brolin isn't the type of guy who you think of when you think, emotional movies. You think, oh, this guy's going to kick ass, And when he was cast as Thanos, based on what they'd set up before this movie, I was like, no, that makes sense, because Thanos has kind of been set up as this tyrant, he's the Titan Thanos. But in this movie, he only spends the first 5 minutes being the Titan Thanos, and then he becomes Dad Thanos, and you really start to feel...
One of my favorite aspects of this movie is that there is only one scene where he loses it. There's only one scene in this movie where he goes, angry rage, and that's, right after... We can spoil, so after Gamora's death.
Yeah.
100. And that scene with Gamora's death was just so, all the stuff with Gamora was great. One of my biggest fears going into this movie was that the Guardians of the Galaxy were not going to get their time with Thanos. Because they're the only characters in this universe who have an actual emotional connection to this villain. I think the movie did a very good job of giving Tony Stark and those characters a connection with the New York incident.
Yeah.
But I was afraid that Gamora and Nebula weren't going to get a lot of scenes with Thanos because, they're not in that lineup, they're not the biggest characters, but man.
I think Thanos is, was interesting. Me and my friend Reese going into this movie, we watched all the Marvel movies together, and we kept saying to each other, we were like, it's gotta be Gamora or Nebula. We were like, there's no way that it can be anyone other than those two characters who have the the majority of Thanos' time, you know? Because we were like, you know, everyone is expecting it to be Steve or Iron Man. They're the two candidates for, you know, I mean, in the Infinity Gauntlet comic, Cap is the one that stands in front of Thanos, even when he gets all the stones. You know, Thanos has all the stones, and Cap stands right in front of him and is like, I know you have all the stones, but I'm still going to try and stop you because I'm Captain America. I thought, for sure that was the route they were going to go. But if you watch the movies, it doesn't make sense, because the Guardians are the only ones where, A, they feature Thanos in the movie, not in the post-credit sequence, but Thanos is in Guardians 1. But also, 2, they have 2 characters on their team that are directly, like...
Well, and then even Drax's family.
Yeah, 100%. Drax,
So
I mean,
that.
changed it a little bit because it's Ronin, but it's
Yeah.
through proxy, you know, of Thanos. So I think that it was surprisingly... It was positively surprising how much they backed up James Gunn's vision, you know? They could have easily have been like, Gunn is the guy who does those funny space movies. We're not going to give his characters the time they need. We've been building Iron Man. It's the Russo brothers, for goodness sake, which I will mention this a little bit later, but to be fair to the Russo brothers, they dropped their favorite character in service of a story. They were like, we're going to drop Steve, even though we are the ones who did Winter Soldier and we are the ones who did Civil War. We're going to drop him in favor of James Gunn's characters because they're more important to this story, you know?
Yeah.
Which, again, I just want to focus on Thanos a bit, but we will make points about Steve later, probably. I thought Thanos was fantastic. I think he's probably the best Marvel villain. I don't know if you agree.
I don't know if it's either him or Killmonger. Because Killmonger was really good. So it's one of those that I'm gonna have to rewatch. I don't know if I want to put myself through that emotional pain anytime soon. But maybe it'll be easier knowing what happens. But man, but Thanos is. I'm surprised that they were able to give you a reason and a backstory to where like there are points where I'm like, oh God, like for some reason I don't hate you. I just feel like you're just like a dude who truly believes this thing and you think you're helping people, but you're not.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, he's not like this crazy madman, you know? He's just like, hey, look, this is how you save the world. You just gotta kill half the universe. And it's like, I mean, you're wrong, but like, props to you for not like, you know, going on a crazy murder rampage, I guess. Well, I mean, he is, but it's weird because you don't feel like he's like this horribly evil guy.
No, you kind of get the sense that he's... I don't know how to describe it. Misguided, maybe, but that sounds too like you're underplaying it. Because he definitely... I feel like he definitely is evil in some ways, because he does these things, right, where, you know, he's like, okay, for the greater good. So you go, okay, he's doing it for the greater good, but he also is become numb to it. Like the scene, this isn't really into favorite moments because it wasn't one of my favorite moments, but I'm still gonna mention it. I feel like I've already fucked up this like pattern I had going. So the scene where he's with Gamora as a child and he hasn't got the gauntlet, so he literally has to do the culling himself. He can't like snap his fingers. He goes from like planet to planet culling just by hand. That doesn't feel like someone who is doing evil for, you know, it doesn't seem like it's tearing him up, but he has to do it. Like he seems numb to it at that point. And maybe presumably the idea is that he's done it so much that now he's numb to it. But he does feel evil enough for me, because a lot of people are coming out of this movie and being like, you know, oh, Thanos, you know, he you know, everything he did, you know, he was in the right, or you know, he the wrong way about going through it. But I do think that he still has that spark of evil, which I really like in a villain. You know, it's really cool to say, oh, you know, I like my villains to be completely 100% right, which is fine. But to me, I like a villain that is still dark. I still like a villain that, even though he has got a justified reason, he's still evil. He's still just that little bit evil.
It's one of those things where it's like, he's 100% wrong. Like, he's 100% wrong. That's not how you, like, live your life and how you're supposed to do things as a rational person. But it was so well acted, and the character had so much more than just that.
100%.
And I think that was the main thing that made him work, was that he was not just a guy spouting off his rhetoric every 5 seconds, which I thought he was going to be, you know, talking about destiny and fate. 'Cause he was going to be Ultron. I thought he was going to be Ultron. But instead we got a very nuanced character who had more feelings than just hate and anger and rage. You know, we didn't even see a lot of his anger or rage, which I thought was a very interesting call, to not show him like that and to show him more calm and collected, because, and you know, at this point he's just kind of given away to the fact that this is what he needs to do.
I want to talk about I want to keep talking about Thanos, but I feel like we got to talk about some moments now. I think we got to talk about some of the moments that we think Thanos really shone. And I want to start with arguably the moment where I think I started to go, okay, this movie is addressing the Marvel villain problem. like, so there's a scene pretty early on. It's not super early on, but it's early in the grand scheme of things, because this movie is long. Where
it doesn't feel long though.
No, it's only long when you come out and you realize it's dark outside.
Yeah.
But it's pretty early on in the movie, I think, where Gamora is first brought onto Thanos' ship, and it's his throne room. And the first thing that stood out to me is like, yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic line. But like, what struck me about that is that unlike, if you look at characters like Odin, or Hela, because obviously she takes Odin's chair. You look at other Marvel characters, Marvel villains. I mean, even Killmonger. As much as I love Killmonger, you know, when he sits in that chair, it's grand. It's grandiose. Like, villains love the grand chair. Thanos' throne room is boring. It's dull.
Yeah.
It's
got nothing.
Because he doesn't give a shit. He's not like, he doesn't want fame. You know, that's not part of his character. It's accentuated by the end of the movie where he's on a farm. You know, he's not doing this. You know, he's not. Again, going back to Iron Man 3, my favorite movie, the Mandarin in that, not the fake Mandarin, the actual Mandarin. He says that even though he's been covering up who he is and he's been using this patsy, at the end he can't help it. He goes, "I am the Mandarin," and he breathes fire, you know? Like, all these villains are like, "Look at me, look at me, look at me." But Thanos is just like, "No, I've just got a job to do." You know? He doesn't need these things. But later on in that scene, you know, he's talking, he's retelling Gamora his, you know, thing, his reasoning. He's trying to convince, I don't even know if he's trying to convince her at that point. He's just saying it. And he's saying it to her. And he says, "This is the only way and it'll work." And she screams at him. She goes, "You don't know that." And I thought it was so good, because it's, with that one line, it kind of goes, this isn't like one of those villains where it's like, oh, you know, he's right, he's just going about it in the wrong way. He doesn't know. You know, he acts like he knows, but when Gamora says that line in the cinema, I did anyway, I kind of was like, oh no, Gamora's right. There's no way that he knows this is going to work. He's just so, like, brainwashed by his own, like, ideal, perfect world.
Yeah, and he doesn't know what else to do, and he's so scarred from what happened on Titan.
100%, yeah.
And that goes into a scene that just, when he, like, the scene of when he finally just, like, rests at the end of the movie, when he just sits and the sun kind of goes down, and it's just one of those moments where it's just like, holy crap. Like, my theory was always like, oh, he's going to do the snap, because that's the cool storytelling decision. But it's a theory because you're like, they're not going to do it, right? And they did it. And it was heartbreaking, and I will get into all of that emotional mess in a little bit, because I just don't know if I can tread on that right now.
I want to talk about the farm a little bit. Someone pointed, this is credit to someone else. They pointed this out, and I just thought it was so cool. The Russo brothers recontextualize that moment from the comics so well, because for those who haven't read the comics, the farm scene in the comics is after Thanos has been defeated by the Avengers. He retires to the farm and he smiles, implying he's like, well, I did all that I could. I tried and I was beaten. And he's kind of just sitting there like, I'm done. This is it. The Russo brothers took that scene and they 100% flipped the context, but it's pretty much shot for shot the same thing of Thanos sitting down smiling, but it's so much more sinister because in the comics he failed and he's just retiring. In this, he won and he's retiring. He got what he wanted and now he's done. He literally
did what I do in sports, where I win one game and then I never play it again.
It was like, if you compare that to the only other Marvel movie I can think of where the villain wins, right? Which I would say Civil War. Like, Zemo kind of wins. He gets what he wants.
Yeah.
But he's cut up about it to the point where he tries to take his own life. And if it wasn't for Black Panther, he would be gone, It's like, you could argue that Civil War is like Empire Strikes Back because, everyone, is gone and everyone is... But the cool thing about this compared to Civil War is Zemo still gets his, just deserves. Even though he wins, he accomplishes, he's still torn up. He's still not... His family doesn't come back to him, He doesn't get what he wants. Whereas Thanos, he accomplishes his mission and then he retires to a farm. It's like, what the hell?
It's crazy. And then just the Thanos War return right after that is this great, like, just going full circle from... even from Iron Man, where it's just, I want you to join the Avengers Initiative. And then from, the end of, what was it? I think it was Captain America, where it was Captain America will return and the Avengers.
Yeah.
To go from that to, Thanos, that's it. Thanos will return. And it's just, it's such, like, it really puts, like, if the mood in the theater wasn't already, like, kind of hushed and quiet at that point, it just adds to it with those words.
I think we can talk about that quite a bit as well, because even though I haven't seen the movie a couple of times, I've seen the credits a lot, because as part of my job I have to go in, turn the lights up for those people that don't want to, watch through all the credits and leave, and then turn the lights back down for the, the after credit scene. Look, Marvel has always had really good credits. They really put effort into creating credits that kind of sum up the tone of the movie. Black Panther was fantastic. It uses the vibranium as a credits device. Iron Man 3, I keep going back to that movie, but the whole movie is a pulp movie, and then the credits are like a pulp title sequence, they're like...
Oh, it's so good.
So good. But this movie plays on it. It knows how popular Marvel credits are. It knows that there has never been a Marvel movie where the credits haven't been flashy. But what do? You get Thanos smiling, and then the quietest credits you've ever seen.
Just the saddest rendition of the Avengers theme ever.
No, but here's what was awesome is that song doesn't play. The credits play, and then that song begins. Because you see all the famous people who made it, all the cast, and then you see the title Avengers Infinity War, and then do.
And it fades away.
Fades away just like the people. It's so good. It was so
the
good.
biggest. Me and Christina looked at each other and we're like, "Are you kidding me?" As if we haven't been through enough. You had to do that. Oh my god.
Gosh. So yeah, I think it's a good transition. I want to talk about another Thanos moment. We kind of finished talking about him, but I want to talk about how badass he is. We've talked, unless you have any more emotional Thanos stuff that you want to talk about.
No, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I think the relationship between him, Gamora, and Nebula was really, in the short amount of time they had to give us that. It was more than I expected, but it obviously wasn't the bulk. The bulk of the movie isn't, a toxic family relationship movie. It's an Avengers movie, so they couldn't spend a whole lot of time on it. But I think with the time that they gave us, they very easily described what the relationship is, how it works, and then gave the audience members who maybe didn't understand that connection, or maybe didn't, they just assumed that the Gamora stuff was some throwaway lines from the Guardians movies that they weren't really paying attention to. It gives them enough context for the Soul Stone scene.
100%, yeah. Actually, we should talk about Soulstone before I talk about Badass
Red
Thanos.
Skull?
Dude,
Where have you been, mein Fuhrer?
I've been calling it and praying for it ever since he disappeared. I remember watching it in the theater when it first came out and being like, I know there's no way they're gonna kill the Red Skull like that. He is the biggest Captain America villain there is, and they can't just have it so the Cap doesn't beat him. This was such a good comeback. This was so good.
What's interesting is that, talk about going full circle, because the Cap movie was the first Marvel movie that introduced an Infinity Stone. It didn't call it an Infinity Stone, it was just a Tesseract. But it was our first sight of one of these objects.
100%.
And it's just crazy. It's such a smart idea to be like, all right, first, I don't understand how the stones have autonomy, but for the Infinity Stones to be like, oh, hey, cool, you want to try and play with this power? We're going to curse you so that you forever have to guard the one thing you can't have. Like, the one thing you want most, you have to guard it, and you can't have it. And it's
so good. And he has one of the most chilling lines in the whole movie, because whether you saw it coming or not, and I'm not being that guy, I miss a lot of things, but I did see it coming in this sequence.
It's one of those things where I'm like, no. I know what you're going to do, don't do it.
Where he goes, it's such a good scene. It doesn't belong in a superhero movie. It's so good. When he goes, you have to give up the thing you love most in the world. And immediately, I know people that said they didn't realize until Thanos cries, but immediately I was like, no, I know exactly what's coming now, and it is not good. But even if you know, it is such a good line when it's honestly, it might be my favorite line in the movie, where he's crying and she looks up at him and he goes, oh, she goes, you shed a tear now because your plan is ruined and everything you wished is gone. And then it cuts to Red Skull and it's just so good. He goes, those tears are not for himself. And you go, oh no!
It's so, and honestly, her, A plot, let's throw it out for Gamora.
Oh, she's awesome.
Unsung hero of these Marvel movies. I don't think she's gotten her due from the audiences. I've always loved Zoe Saldana. I think she's great. But that scene, all of her scenes were A+. Of the scene with her and Star-Lord, the scene where she's just like, I need you to kill me. So good. But then that scene, because it's so perfectly, it's such a human moment where oh, you have to give it the thing you love most. And she just rails into it. She's like, oh, guess what? You don't love anything, you piece of shit. Ha 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 ha. And it's so good. And it adds a quick moment of levity before your heart gets ripped out of your chest. Again, for the third time that movie.
I've seen a lot of people as well being... Not a lot of people. Are critical of this movie, really. But I've seen some people mentioning, why didn't she realize immediately? But, you gotta... you believe it. Because of...
Yeah.
Especially if you've watched Guardians 1 and 2. Especially Guardians 2, with her relationship with Nebula. Which, honestly, I like Peter Quill and his dad, but her and Nebula, their conflict in that movie was far more interesting to me.
My favorite part of the movie, yeah.
So good. But, the intensity of her hatred towards her dad and the childhood that she talks about, I 100% buy that she doesn't believe Thanos loves her.
And that's the interesting thing about not to get too psychological, but in toxic family relationships.
Yeah.
There's a reason why she cries when she thinks that she kills him, because there's 4 people who've been emotionally or physically abused. There's still a part of them that wants to humanize the abuser. 100%. And so there's still that part of them that wants to feel like they're a good person. However, to be in that situation, you cannot have any imagination that that person actually has true feelings for you. Because if you did, it makes the pain so much worse.
No.
Because if they did have true feelings for you, why would they put you through that?
Yeah, and I think it hit home for me, because I have a good relationship with my parents, but I know a lot of people. I'm not bragging, I swear. That sounded really shitty. But I know a lot of people who have terrible relationship with their parents. I know some people who have abusive relationships with their parents, and it 100% shows. It's this weird cycle where if you accept that they love you, it makes it so much harder. It makes it so much harder to deal with. It's so easy to see them as the villain, you know? And I think that was such a good part on the Russo brothers. They didn't just make this a relationship between, you know, a woman who hated her father and her father who loved her daughter, a father who loved a daughter but mistreated her. It was almost like, it was complex. It was 100% a complex, nuanced relationship, and they got that across in, you know, a couple scenes in Guardians 1, a couple more scenes in Guardians 2, and very little scenes in in Infinity War. But you get it. You 100% get it. And to the point where when she dies, you go, fuck, man, that was such a good, complete story for her. Now, there's obviously the chance that she comes back.
That's the thing that my least favorite part about this movie is literally credits roll. Then the after credits scene. But like as I was walking out, there were just some people who are like, they're all coming back anyway, it doesn't matter. And I'm like, but it does. That's not how storytelling works. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think that
it's still like the story itself still has emotional impact. I hope that, you know, everyone comes back, because I had a deep attachment to all of those characters that disappeared basically.
We can talk about the deaths. I think it's an interesting topic. I might want to save it to the. Are you okay to save it to the end? I feel like it would be a good thing. Kind of round.
I think
off.
Save that. And I have some like actual happy stuff I want to get to.
100%.
Because there are some legitimately exciting, happy, and fun moments in this movie. It is not all like depressing. It is very much an emotional movie, but it very much does have Marvel levity and Marvel excitement and the fight scenes and stuff. So I do want to touch on some of that stuff.
Can I start by, again, I'm just trying to get this Thanos stuff out, but it is a good transition into the fun stuff. This is less of an emotional, less of a heavy bit, but it's still Thanos related. He throws a moon!
Oh my god. When I saw that, I was like, no. Oh my god, he's gonna toss a moon. It's like a Marvel versus Capcom animation.
It's a finishing move.
Oh my god. And Thanos' fighting style is so cool, because he uses all the stones in such interesting ways.
We don't have time to talk about how good this movie is.
There's too much time. Alright, so
okay,
I was going to go off of Thanos.
No, do.
Unless there's
go. One more thing. Again, I'll just one last Thanos thing, because he's so good in this movie. He's 100% my favorite character in this movie. I love that it's so clearly defined which stone he's using. That was such a good touch.
Yeah.
I thought it was almost a game within the movie for me. Like, just being like, which stone is he going to use next? And then it's showing you specifically which stone he uses was so good. It was such a nice touch. I know people don't care about this stuff, some people, but for me, like the stone going ching and like glowing as he closed his fists, and then seeing the effects of it, like even the stone, like one of the stones sucking like stuff in and teleporting it back, the Tesseract, like so it's just coming from a background of video games and playing video games, it's such a cool thing, because it's almost like he's got a weapon wheel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's just the last thing I want to say about Thanos for now.
So, to go into some happier stuff, the character that honestly surprised me the most this movie, and the one that I came out wanting more of, Doctor Strange.
We're going to disagree.
Really? What did you not like about Strange?
I can tell you what I liked about him. It'll be a shock.
No, I want to hear what you don't like.
Look, I don't like Doctor Strange, the movie. It's my least favorite Marvel movie. It for me, and a lot of people like it. It's not one of those things where I can be like, "Hey, Doctor Strange is boring," and everyone agrees. Like, but I really thought it was. it was dull. Like, for me, anyway. I think that there's so much unnecessary exposition in that movie. It looks fantastic, but the amount of things that is things being brought up in a movie and not being paid off, it really annoys me, because it's like, why bring it up? But again, people can look past that. But another thing is, I love Benedict Cumberbatch. I think he's a great actor. I don't think he is a Doctor Strange. He comes across as unlikably arrogant to me. Like, Tony Stark is arrogant, but he's got that charm, he's got that edge to him. Whereas in Doctor Strange, I can never get on board with him, even with the stuff with Dormammu, right? Right at the end where he learns his lesson, he's like, I'm going to keep dying until I save the world. To me, I still felt, and maybe this is me, but I still felt like he was doing it for himself so that he could say that he saved the world. Like, that's the impression that I got.
That's the problem, is that he's like the smartest person in the room, but he never has a moment where he's actually proven wrong. But this movie took out all of the unnecessary annoying stuff from the Doctor Strange movie and just gave us cool magic.
I like the magic.
And that's all I want from that character. And so watching the movie, I did love him and Tony Stark and the face-off that they were just having, the measuring contest. I thought that was really entertaining. And then I think I love the scene with him, looking at all the possible futures. Yeah. And I think that his story is really important within the story, his meta story. Because every character with the stones has been given a choice between a loved one and a stone. Every single character in the movie, whenever there's something with a stone, it's always, all right, you can either your loved one or the stone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Doctor Strange is the only one who doesn't get that choice.
Yes.
And that's why we win. At the end of the day, because Doctor Strange doesn't love anything.
Yeah. Yeah, you are right. You're bringing me around a little bit. I just really dislike him. I
think that's the point. The problem is he has no redeeming qualities whatsoever, besides being kind of funny, but in a really mean way.
I don't like him, and I don't like the cape, which Jen thinks I have no soul for this.
Yeah, you don't. The cape is great.
I think the cape is lame. There's a scene in Doctor Strange where he full Scooby-Doo's, where he's running on the spot and the cape is pulling him back, and I can't do this.
There's a scene where he wears the cape and he's trying to look all cool, and then the cape starts wiping his face.
It's so lame. It's so lame. It's so bad.
It's my type of lame.
Okay, look, I give it to all the Doctor Strange people there. There are a lot of people who enjoy Doctor Strange. A lot of people love it. My friend Tom, Jen. Here's the thing. I love the magic. I like Doctor Strange in this movie as a plot device. I think, like you said, he's a really good plot device. I love the ending. The ending was so cool because I was so angry. I was like, this movie sucks now. I got so annoyed because it tricks you into thinking that he did it to save Tony. And I was like, that is such bullshit. They've not proven that those characters like each other at all. Like, I thought the movie wanted me to believe that Doctor Strange had somehow come to love Tony Stark in this brief encounter. But then when it flips it on the head, I felt like a dum-dum. I felt like a stupid boy. Like, it made so much more sense.
And then I love is that, because obviously the one possible future wasn't one where they win that fight with Thanos. It was one where Thanos gets all the gems, but because of who survives,
Tony,
they're able to, which is interesting. We'll probably go into that with the deaths of who actually survives.
Yeah.
Which is a very interesting choice of who they picked.
It is.
I think that was a very deliberate choice.
100%, and I have thoughts on that, and we will get to that 100%. But, Doctor Strange, he had really good moments, but I just, overall, I don't like him. This is going to sound really bad, but can we all, before I say this, agree that he's a fictional character? He doesn't actually exist.
Yes.
There's a scene, really the beginning of the movie, where he's getting choked by these pipes that the magician, the Thanos' magician son, is using.
Black Maw. I don't know. I forget the names of all the. I know the children of Thanos are the Black Order. That's all I got.
Yeah. So the Black Order have this magician kind of guy. I don't know if he's a magician or he's telekinesis.
Squidward.
Squidward. There you go. So Squidward is using his powers to choke Doctor Strange, and me and my friend Reese, who's sitting right next to me in the theater, we start crossing our fingers, going, "Please die, please die, please die, please die, please die." Like, this is so... Look, I irrationally hate Doctor Strange, but you are right. He's really...
He surprised me the most. I went into that movie not caring or, like, really knowing or wanting or anything about Doctor Strange, and after that movie, I was like, wow, he had a lot of cool moments, and I'm most curious about his motivations during the story, I guess.
I will tell you who surprised me the most. If it's a good transition.
Yeah.
Not that I disliked him before this movie, not at all. But I think Peter Parker in this movie is interesting. He's probably the most interesting character to me because he really doesn't feel like he should fit, you know?
Yeah.
like he really, when I saw him in the posters, he was the one character, like, forget the Guardians, forget Doctor Strange, forget everyone. He's the one character where I was like, is he really gonna fit in this movie? Like, what is his motivation? Like, in Civil War, I got it. He was doing a favor for Tony. In Spider-Man Homecoming, they deal with it really well in the sense that, you know, he needs to learn that he can't take on these big things. He needs to be a superhero of the people. You know, there's even that line of in Tony has
Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah, like what does he say? Kind of like a hero for the people type of character.
Yeah.
Like it's such a. So I saw him in the trailers for this movie, and I was like, really? How are they going to convince that? But there's a line he has, and the whole movie he really proves it. But the one line that stuck out to me is when he's like, you know, if I don't save the planet, there's going to be no New York to save. You know? Like,
you can't be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man if there's no neighborhood.
That's the one, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Oh my gosh. And Tom Holland is a blessing to this world. He is amazing.
Really good. And, like, he's not been my favorite Spider-Man, but he's definitely, every single time I see him, I'm more impressed. Like, he's so good. And everything in this movie that I thought was going to be, oh, that's fanfare, they gave a reason. The Iron Spider, I was really annoyed when I saw that because I really like that he rejects it in the end of Homecoming. I was like, that's such a cool...
They do it in such a way that makes sense, where it's just like, oh, Spider-Man's doing something dumb and is about to get himself, like, deprived of oxygen. Here, send the suit after him.
100%. I really think it's a really nice emotional moment that is kind of played for a joke. But when he's thrown off, you know, when Tony throws him off and he's like, I'll deal with it, you're a kid. And then you see the ship fly past and Spider-Man is webbed onto it, like, at the back. And he's like, you know, secretly, you know, coming with the ship. I thought that was such a cool moment because it's like, Spider-Man's like, no, I'm here now. I'm fucking here. Yeah. You give me the suit, so I'm going to be an Avenger. You know? It
so greatly goes into Tony Stark.
Oh, so good.
We need to give that guy a hand because, like, for one character to have a through line through almost every single movie this company has made and to grow and change, and to the fact where the idea of him wanting kids does not sound crazy.
100%.
It actually makes a lot of sense. But then just the idea of, like, he already has a kid. He already adopted a kid, and it's Peter, and it's just. Oh my god, it just makes the movie, like, especially with the ending and stuff, just so, like, heartbreaking, because their story together was just so well done. And just from Homecoming to this, just...
It's Spider-Man Homecoming. I think my least favorite thing about that movie was Iron Man's involvement, because I always felt like Spider-Man didn't give a chance to, you know, be his own character. He was always paired up with Iron Man. But it totally makes sense now after watching Infinity War that they had to set that relationship up. You know, they really had to play on that so that this would pay off. I think we could transition into Iron Man. Let's talk about Iron Man a little bit, because you mentioned a couple things about him, like how, you know, they've convinced us that him having kids is like a normal thing for him now. Like, I 100% bought that at the beginning.
And I've never been the biggest Iron Man guy.
Okay.
He's never been a character that super spoke to me. I've always enjoyed him in the movies, but it's always been like, okay, cool, it's Iron Man. But for some reason, at this point in his arc, you know, every scene he was in, I was just like, man, I love Iron Man. Look at him and his that new suit, by the way. So cool.
Oh, see, look, I think the design is cool, and I think the way he uses it is really cool. But I just, this is kind of going to go into my criticism of the movie. Again, not a big deal. But I don't like how they're coming away from the practical effects. Like, Tom Holland never wears a Spider-Man suit. Iron Man is never in a practical suit. Like, in Iron Man 1, there's this really cool shot where he's clearly wearing a big Iron Man suit, like, that they built, you know? And there's just a little bit of a floaty head situation that really sometimes takes me out. Usually the acting will bring me back in, but that kind of annoyed me a little bit. It's so much so that I love how Captain Marvel has got like an actual suit she wears in the set photos. I thought that was so cool. Like, they're obviously going to jazz it up and make it like, you know, glow and stuff, but I really like that she actually wears a suit. I just wish Iron Man, you know, wasn't just a floating head. But the design of the suit, the actual like things it can do was, I agree, so cool. Super.
And you can't argue that scene where, like, and the kid, they slow-mo for it too. They make sure you take it all in. When he takes off the glasses and he starts walking towards the Black Order, and it slowly starts materializing on top of him. Yeah. They knew it. They're like, here's your hero shot, baby, right here.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, that beginning was just, well, not beginning, because that was amazing in its own. And Thor is the next person I want to talk about with this movie, because I have a lot to say about Thor.
Same. I 100%. I do want to finish on a little bit of Tony Stark, though, because I think he...
But, what I was going to say about Tony is, like, just the fact that normal-ass human being Tony Stark is sitting there, and Doctor Strange is telling him that, look, him and Bruce Banner are like, the end of the world's coming, everything has led up to this, and Tony's just like, what's his name again?
Yeah.
Like, such a cool moment, and it's such like it's almost like an old Tony moment where he kind of like gets back into like his old kind of ways, because he's just like, what's his name again? Like, I'm about to kick this dude's teeth in right now.
I really appreciate that Tony Stark. I think Tony is an interesting character because every single movie he's in, he has to do something that I usually hate, but it makes sense with Tony Stark, where he relearns a lesson.
Yeah.
But the thing with Tony is that since Iron Man 1, he's always been an addict in some form or in some way. And I think that Tony is they use his addiction as a really good plot way to have him never quite 100% learn. You know, he always learns a lesson and then takes that lesson and finds a way around it. You know?
Yeah.
Like, he'll always make the same mistakes, but in different nuanced ways, because he's so smart he can outthink himself. Like, the repetition from Iron Man 3 all the way through all of the movies leading up to this one, where he kept promising to quit, is so good and so believable. He promises to quit and he destroys all his suits in Iron Man 3, but then, in Age of Ultron, we just had to get rid of, Hydra. We just had to get rid of Hydra. And then in Civil War, okay, I'm going to build, this robot, and then the robot turns evil. It's fine, I'll build another robot. I'll just build another robot. It's fine. Yeah. And then it just keeps going and going, and he can't stop. And the moment which I really thought that was well executed by the Russo brothers is when Pepper calls him, and she's like, tell me you're not on that spaceship. Tell me you're not on that spaceship. He's like, I'm sorry, Pepper, I got to. Because he's addicted. He cannot stop himself from saving
also,
the world.
by the way, I want to send a message out to love of my life, Christina.
Okay.
If there's an alien spaceship on the planet and I happen to have the means to fight that thing, I don't want a phone call saying you need to get off that spaceship.
But does he have the means, though? Does he? That's my point.
You are probably correct. He's a guy with very advanced Apple technology.
The thing with Tony is, like, he always thinks he's the answer, but more often than not, he's not. You know, if he wasn't in Civil War, it would have gone a lot smoother.
I legitimately thought that he was going to die. Going into the movie, I did, and then when he gets stabbed, I was like, this is it. This is where we lose Tony. And we didn't. And that was so surprising to me. The scene with him and Thanos is great because they almost like, they're two men who believe so strongly in whatever they're doing that they're willing to put their relationships and harm people that are close to them in the process.
not just that. I mean, that's a great point, but not just that. But they're also two men who have the exact same goal. If you think about it, they 100% have the exact same goal.
They don't have fight anymore.
They're willing to. They're almost willing to do this. I mean, not so much. This is a bit hyperbole. I'm going a bit John Johnson here, but it is a bit hyperbole. He's not willing to do just as much as Thanos, but he is willing to push the line further than it should be pushed, just like Thanos is. Like, with Ultron and Vision, he proved that he's willing to take, put people's lives in danger if it means saving, the majority. And I really like that implication. I don't know if this is 100% or this is me speculating. The implication that in New York, it wasn't just PTSD, but something connected him and Thanos, and it's been there ever since. Like, there is some sort of connection, because now, you could just say Thanos knows everything, but Thanos says, I respect you, Stark. Like, there is never a point where, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's a point where Thanos knows anyone, just because.
He does know Star-Lord, because he calls him the boyfriend. So he's at least heard of him before. Or maybe just because of he was looking from the outside with the Reality Stone. But part of me has a dumb theory, which is Tony Stark threw a nuke at Thanos' ship at the end of Avengers. Like, he legitimately just threw a nuke, like it went straight to Thanos' ship. Like, it was on the other side of that portal. And Thanos was sitting there just like, man, that's a true G right there. Tony Stark, true G.
Yeah, I think that, and I think it's substantiated, that connection in Age of Ultron, where they set Infinity War up, where Tony has that vision, and Scarlet Witch is almost taken aback by it, because she's like, that is not me. I did not do that. She's like, there is something inside of Tony's head, and he sees all the Avengers dead.
And then people have been like throwing out the phrase Ultron, where he's like, when God throws a stone, and he's just, and the earth crumbles, whatever, and he's just winding up, and everyone's like, oh, Ultron was actually talking about Thanos. He wasn't talking about, the giant thing that he was going to do.
Yeah. Oh man, I just love that.
About Tony.
Yeah, I mean, I think I hit on most of the points. I like that connection. I like that kind of parallel that they make. And I think Tony is just generally just really... They really handle a defeated man well in this, because he has no more lessons to learn because he refuses to learn them. And you see that in this movie. He's done. Like, his arc is done. He's just hanging on by a thread. And for some reason that we are going to find out, he was the key to humanity's survival. And I'm very excited as to know why that is. Now let's talk about my favorite Avenger, like you just brought up. The Boy. He's the boy. He's the star of this.
Oh my gosh. They even, they put him on a table and they just touch his body. They just put him on a table and they just said, just feel around for a little bit.
This is not a dude. You're a dude. No, dude. This is a man.
Oh my gosh. I want to just, one gripe I have with Senior Thor.
Okay.
When he comes back to Wakanda with Stormbreaker, which is the most badass weapon I've ever seen in my
100%.
life, they do not play his music.
Yeah.
I knew it would have, it probably would not have fit with the tone of the movie at all. But there was just a part of me that wanted to hear that again for one more time.
I mean, they used the Immigrant Song twice in Thor 3.
Yeah.
It would have been cool, but it might have undercut.
No, I think they used it 3 times, actually. They use it a lot in Ragnarok.
Yeah, they do use it quite a lot. I do think it might have undercut, because that moment isn't just him returning, it's him and the Guardians as well. So it might have been a little bit,
Yeah, but it just would have been so great.
I'm excited to see the edit that comes out.
Oh,
eventually.
yeah, it's coming out. So, besides that, my favorite Thor scene.
I think everyone's going to have the same favorite Thor scene.
When he's talking to Rocket.
Oh, Jesus, man.
That is the most... Chris Hemsworth acted his ass off.
100%.
But also, that is a type of vulnerability and like so human of a moment of like, this is a person you just met. You don't really know them, so you don't want to get too emotional around them. But then like the wall is falling down, but you're still trying to keep it up, even though you know like they can tell that you're fucked up. But you're just still pretending that you're. Oh, it's so good. So many emotions in just one. I think it's just a couple minutes. It wasn't even that long.
I want to kind of carry on with the Tony talk that I just said, because this transitions. What I talked about with Tony is how they really they really pay off all the stuff they set up with Tony. They set up this addiction, quality to his character, and they carried on and they almost fulfill it in this movie. They do the exact same thing with Thor. Thor's had a very clear path in the Marvel movies. In the first movie, he was this child who had to learn to not be a child anymore. In the second movie, he learns that he doesn't actually want to be king. And in the third movie, he realizes, no, I will be king, but I'll be different. I'll be a better king. Like, it's this cool thing where he... Thor, I really like his arc. As much as his movies, up and down, people divided, I think his arc is really good. And it leaves him in this point where he is in Ragnarok, where he's kind of accepted the childish part of him and also accepted the warrior and king part of him and kind of put them together. And I don't think Thor 1 would have had this moment. It really makes sense. They really take that whole arc that he's been on and have this moment where he's crying, where you go, no, dude, I totally... From the Thor that I've seen up until this point, I buy it. I 100% buy it. He would not have been able to do this and been this open with someone if it was in any other movie. He had to go through all those trials and tribulations. And I really appreciate that with Tony, and I really appreciate that with Thor. And I really appreciate it with Hulk as well, but we'll get to that because I do want to talk about how fucking badass Thor is. Like, how awesome is Thor to watch?
I love the fact that a fully powered Thor 100% can kick Thanos' ass.
100%. 100,000%.
No question about it. Thor in full God King mode, Thanos is done. But and I love that we talk about people making the same mistakes and talk about this story thread. He does the one thing that's always been his fatal flaw. So he gets just a bit too arrogant.
Yeah.
And just a bit too fueled with revenge.
Yeah.
And that costs the entire universe.
Thor is he's kind of... He's always kind of been a bit childish, which I love about him. Yeah. I don't know if that's something that people get irked by, but like he's always been a bit childish, and like I think the implication is that he's young for an Asgardian, but like he's old in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
But I like that, like even when he tries to do adult things, even when he tries to step up, he still fucks it up a bit. Like when he tried to stop Hela, he ended up causing Ragnarok because it was the only thing to do. He gets his shot on Thanos, but he just goes for the wrong body part. Like,
oh my gosh. And the problem is that he's like, oh, I'm just going to stick this thing in more and not just finish the job.
Or grab the gauntlet, like anything. Like, Tony has the foresight to, like, stop him closing his fist, like Tony deploys those things.
Which that scene was so good.
So good. So good. And I want to talk about that when we get to Star-Lord. But right now...
we have to talk about that.
Oh, dude. But I want to talk about... Thor a little bit more, and then I want to go to the last two remaining main Avengers, because I think my point is going to be a through line. Yeah, I think Thor... one last thing I want to say, unless you have any other points. He's just so fun to watch. He's the most fun to watch of all the Avengers. His hammer, his lightning, it's just so... He's at a point now where if Thor is fighting, I just only want to look at him. I don't care what anyone else is doing.
My favorite thing is that we kept Thor Ragnarok.
Yes.
We kept him from that movie, and he didn't revert back to Avengers Thor or anything. He was still the same character. Like, a lot of the jokes and a lot of the nuances that he had were still there. And can we talk about his fucking biceps for just a second here? Because that dude is like, oh, I'm going to restart the heart of a dying star with these guns. One of them's Storm, the other one's Breaker.
Not just that, but also he takes the full power of a dwarf star to the body and survives. Like, what
One of my favorite jokes, and it's because it was. I love it because it was just a little off. Like
Okay.
it was the timing was just a little weird. Where he's like, "Well, I'll die trying," and then Peter Dinklage's just like, "Yeah, that's what dying is. That's what being killed is." Like this weird joke that has like the comedic timing is just enough off for it to be like kind of weird and felt a little ad lib, which I loved. It's just like, yeah, well, yeah, that's what it is. That's what dying is. It's what being killed is, or whatever he said.
I'll tell you that why that really appeals to me is because it's, like you said, they have not forgotten Thor Ragnarok. And this movie does not forget any directors. It brings all of the directors with them. Like, James Gunn is there in the Guardian scenes. In that ship where Thor wakes up, it felt like Taika Waititi and James Gunn were co-directing the whole thing. Even though they weren't there, it really did...
Yeah.
It paid homage to those directors' styles. It didn't, like, crunch them. Like, in Civil War, as much as I like Civil War, and I love the Russo brothers, especially now that they did this, you know, Tony in Civil War...
It was a Captain America movie.
It was. And Tony in Civil War did not feel like he was being directed, you know, like he was in a Jon Favreau movie. He was being directed by the Russo brothers. In this, he felt like Tony from those first two Iron Man movies. You know,
he felt like, even Iron Man 3, like, he felt almost like...
Yeah. 100%.
I think he felt more Iron Man 1 than Iron Man 3, but there was a little bit of Shane Black in there. And one of my favorite cuts, which is like the thing that you said of like feeling like James Gunn was there, where it cuts to space and it just says space. It's one of those, it's like, oh yeah, we're in Guardians territory now, baby. Let's go.
You could have played that and not shown the ship, not played the music, and everyone would have known it was Guardians.
Everyone, because it's funny, laughs, but you could... It's one of those things where, like, the collective experience of being in a movie theater and having that shared experience with everybody, you tend to feel moods. And so that was one of those things where it was after a very emotionally draining beginning with Loki's death, which was...
Oh, man.
Oh, wow. But you felt the mood lifting up just a little bit because everyone in the theater is like, okay, the Guardians are coming here. It's going to be better. Like, it was one of those weird things. You could feel an entire room start to be less sad and start to get a little happy. It's
100%, 100%. UK moving away from Thor, because I'm formulating a point right now and I'm really enjoying it.
Oh yeah, I have stuff to say about Star-Lord. One last thing, I love how they rounded out the Loki Thor relationship. I feel like he is part of Thor's story. Yeah. Carry on. That scene was heartbreaking, and I saw there's this gift set on Tumblr, because I love Tumblr. Tumblr's really good at making you sad, though. It had scenes of Thor and Loki together from all of the movies they've been together in, and it said, "The sun will shine on us again."
Oh, man.
And it's like, it was just such this beautiful moment of like, hey, look, I know you, the audience, you're gonna think that Loki's gonna fuck this up, but he actually learned his lesson. He legitimately learned his lesson in Ragnarok. And he, like, actually moved on. And that's an interesting thing to think of, is that he's one of the few characters in the movie that actually does not repeat his mistakes.
No, he
dies for it.
In fact, it's what gets him killed. It is 100%. There is a scene in Avengers, and I picked it up when we were rewatching all these movies. There's a scene in Avengers, it's very, very good, where he goes, "Sentiment?" And he's like disgusted by it. Like, he says it in such a good way where he's like, "Sentiment? It's what makes you weak." And like, you cut from that Loki to this Loki where he's like, "Oh no, dude, I've learned sentiment after all these years. I'm finally going to be sentimental." And it gets him killed. It's almost that Loki was right. Loki in Avengers 1 was right. And this Loki suffers for not listening to him.
And then We Have a Hulk scene, which was a great round to that relationship of Loki and Hulk together, which is just, that one not as emotionally charged, obviously, as the Thor one, but still a really fulfilling scene.
Let's talk about Hulk, if you don't mind.
Okay, I don't have much to say about him, but I do think he is important to the
I think
overall
Hulk,
narrative.
much like the other two, it's more subtle, but they do still pay on the what's come before with Hulk. Because I just want to kind of lay this out. In Incredible Hulk, he's just an angry beast. He has some form of affinity for Betty, but even in that scene where he's like comforting Betty in the rain and it's like a cave, he's like throwing rocks at the sky because it's thundering and he doesn't know how to deal with it. He's like screaming at the sky, and he's like just angry and just angry and angry and angry. Then you cut to Avengers, where yes, he's still angry, he's still the Hulk, but he somehow is working as this team, and he saves Tony Stark. It's the first person, other than a girl that he fancies, that he actually saves, Then you cut further to Age of Ultron, where Hulk feels sadness for the first time. It's not just anger. Like, he's actually feeling sad, which isn't anger, and that's what makes him leave. It isn't because he's angry. He leaves because he's torn up about Black Widow.
Yeah.
And then in Thor 3, which I think is the most important iteration of Hulk to get us to here, he feels everything. In Thor, you see Hulk fully becoming a person. Like, he feels self-doubt, he's like self-conscious, he's like trying to figure out why he's always angry. Like, even though it's a joke, it's a genuine conversation where he's like, Hulk, like fire.
Yeah.
Like, he's like talking about these worries that he has inside him. And then you get to this, where it's the first time we see the Hulk genuinely scared. Like, I think they did a really good job. He gets taken out, but not just in a way it's like, oh no, it's struggling. Thanos just wipes the floor with him.
Dude, it's like, he gets taken out like Thanos is fighting a child.
100%. He's even the line where he's like, let him have his fun.
Yeah. Which I think we somehow magically fall into these themes and ideas. We're really good at this. Where to another character, another set, Bruce Banner, the Hulk, who don't learn their lesson.
Yeah.
And I feel like this group of Avengers from at the end of the movie are all characters who have a lesson that they still need to learn so that they can truly become the Avengers from the first movie.
Yes.
And Bruce Banner and Hulk still don't see each other as people or as equals.
No, even now Bruce is less scared of becoming the Hulk after Ragnarok. I think that's kind of what that moment where he jumps out of the plane is him, reconciling. He still is not seeing the Hulk as anything but a tool, and that's kind of a big reason as to why the Hulk doesn't come out. Now, this transitions me into my least favorite part of the movie, because you have the 4 main Avengers and 3 of them have got these clearly defined arcs. Where is Steve Rogers, John?
Oh.
Where is he? And why is it that they've so clearly thought about how they're going to use 3 of the 4 of them, but Steve arguably has the most room to grow. He has been sprouting like a flower, and each iteration of him, whether it's in his own movies or in an Avenger movie, he's always been pushed down this path, In the first Captain America, he's very much pro-America, pro-government. He becomes Captain America, and every film he's in since, he's a bit less that, He's pushed away until he eventually becomes Nomad. And I thought this movie was going to be the culmination of that, but he's not in it. He's not in the movie.
So thinking for about 10 seconds of trying to think of an idea of, because everything was so perfectly planned out. You could just argue that they didn't have enough time.
Or that he's a main character in the sequel, I guess.
Well, I would also argue that, he's good. But I think part of his journey, because the thing is that out of all these characters, Cap is the one who has learned and changed the most.
Yes. Yeah.
When we talk about characters repeating their mistakes, he's one of the only characters who has not really failed to repeat his mistakes.
Yeah, he always learns. That's kind of his charm, He's always on his toes.
The interesting thing is, because our argument has been this entire movie is that the people who are going to save the day are the ones who need to learn from their mistakes.
Yeah.
But Cap doesn't fit into that mold. But you could argue that... See, this... I don't know if this really fits, though, but what I'm thinking of is... Because his main scene is that we don't trade lives, I think is a lot. where he refuses to have the Vision killed, and that basically, I mean, technically didn't make everything fall apart, because even if they had done it earlier, Thanos would have used the time gem no matter what.
Yeah, yeah.
But it is this interesting idea of maybe Cap needs to go the opposite direction. Maybe he does need to repeat his mistakes.
Maybe.
I don't know if that's a good enough explanation, but that's the only thing I can really think of, because his character honestly doesn't do anything in this movie.
He isn't. I would venture to say that he isn't even a character. Like
Yeah.
there is a difference between a character and a plot device. Most times a character is a plot device as well. But in this movie, I don't think he's really a character. Now, I'm not going to say this ruined the movie for me. It was more because when I watched the movie, I was very impressed by... I mean, you could argue there's 6 main Avengers or 4.
Yeah.
It's a toss-up between, which ones. But I think saying there's 4 is really easy and really... You can define it then. They've all got their particular, characters. They all fit differently. They all have, a varying degree of different powers, kind of like the Trinity in Justice League. Like the 4 main Avengers are kind of like, they serve the same kind of purpose. And I was really bummed that 3 of them out of the 4 really got these awesome kind of continuations of their story. Whereas Cap, I felt like the Russo brothers were like, no, we finished Cap's story in...
Well, I think the argument could be made that they didn't want to rest on... They know Captain America, they know they can do Captain America very well, and maybe they didn't want it to seem like, oh, the Russo brothers are directing an Avengers movie, so it has to be all about Captain America. Like, that could have maybe gone into it a little bit of, like, subconsciously. They're like, oh, maybe we should focus on these other characters that we haven't gotten to play with as much.
Yeah, and I understand, I 100% understand that. That'll very much, I think, tell.
It doesn't really excuse, a founding Avenger not getting really any sort of character arc when all the others kind of... Well, Black Widow also. That's why I think the main thing is they were being saved up for the next one.
Yes, I agree. I think time will solve this problem, because I really do think that, like you said, they wanted in this movie to prove that they were not Captain America directors, they were Avenger directors, and they proved that to me in this movie. Now I want to see them use all of that stuff they built up in their Captain America movies, and all of this stuff that they've built up in their Avengers movie, and really put it into one kind of amazing culmination of everything. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. I thought it was a bit of a bummer. But obviously, Iron Man's arc isn't done. Thor's arc isn't done. Hulk's arc definitely isn't done, because we don't see him in this movie, really. And I'm assuming Cap's arc is just about to begin, especially considering what he has to watch at the end of this movie.
Oh my gosh. Even though we're spoiling it, I'm gonna wait for the deaths until we're done with... I think we have one more character, right, that we both want to talk about?
I can't think really of anyone except for Star-Lord.
Okay, yeah, Star-Lord was the only one I really wanted to talk about, and I'm probably gonna add in a couple of the other Guardians or auxiliary characters in with the Star-Lord one, probably. Okay. My favorite thing I think that this movie did is that we got back dipshit asshole Peter Quill. Because I felt like I feel like Volume 2, and even a little bit in Volume 1, I don't know, he just became too... He was very altruistic. He's very much saved the universe, and like, I don't know. I feel like this... Maybe I haven't seen those movies in a while, but I feel like this movie really hammered in asshole dipshit Peter Quill. Very much.
I would recommend rewatching them, because I think that this really does a good job of building on what those movies say. Like especially Guardians 2, he doesn't kill Ego because he wants to save the world and save the planets. Ego's plan...
because of his mom. Yeah,
so Ego said... There's this awesome bit in Guardians 2, and I agree. Guardians 2, when I watch I don't get as much enjoyment as when I think about it. I feel like the jokes kind of muddy the waters, but the actual plot of Guardians 2 is pretty solid. There's the scene where Ego is explaining his plan to take over the universe. Peter Quill does nothing. He doesn't react. He goes along with it because he's in this trance state of, oh, I've got a dad now, I don't care, and like Ego influences his mind. So after Ego explains his plan of like, let's take over the universe, it's only when he admits to killing Peter's mother does Peter snap out of it, and he goes, you kill my mom, and then he shoots a bunch, shoots him a bunch, and then later on there's that scene of like, you shouldn't have killed my mom and crushed my Walkman.
So
like,
yeah, maybe I was a little hyperbolic.
A little, but I see what you're saying with the arsehole factor. He kind of gets away from that the more the movies go, because he attaches himself to Gamora, and I think Gamora teaches him to be less of an arsehole, or otherwise I'm not going to like you, you know?
Yeah.
And then he loses her.
Oh my gosh. First of all, the stuff with him and Gamora in the beginning, so great. And honestly, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when they first show up and they're not all singing, but him and Gamora are singing as they're flying the spaceship.
Yeah, I like the Gamora's lip syncing.
They're one of my favorite things that the Marvel movies have done. People have complained about this, is that they do relationship stuff off screen.
Okay.
Because my argument is, especially with Vision and Scarlet Witch, comics have hundreds of issues to do things.
Yeah.
Movies don't. And if we went in legit chronological order with these movies and didn't skip time in between, none of these characters would progress. So you need, and it's one of those things where it's like, set it up a little bit, next movie, speed up a couple years, and it's already done. We get it.
Yeah, 100%. And I buy Gamora and Star-Lord's weird on and off again relationship because of the other movies. There's a scene at the end of Guardians 2 where she holds his hand and he's like, what's up? And she goes, just one of those unspoken things. It's like they're not together, they're not dating, but they both admit that there is some form of attraction, whether it be emotional or sexual or both probably, where like they do like each other. But Pete, I think, and this is me speculating, I think Gamora can't fully commit because, one, she's all that baggage with her dad, and two, Peter still needs to grow up. Peter,
he's too childish.
He's grown up a lot since the beginning of the first movie, but he still has ways to go, and I think that, honestly, Guardians 3 will be Peter Quill becoming a full-rounded human being who has finally come to terms with his mum's death, that's what my hope is. But I think this movie is really good because he gets close. He actually, and this is going to be the worst pun and the saddest pun I've ever made, he pulls the trigger on becoming an adult, and it backfires on him, and I love it.
That was really good. That was really good.
But here's the thing. It's so good because it's the first moment where he finally goes, I am going to put aside my emotions and I'm going to listen to the woman I love and I'm going to do the thing that needs to be done like an adult should. And it backfires on him. It is so, because he gets so close to that thing that he's needed to be, and then he just spirals back. He goes all the way down.
The problem with every man-child is that, like, you do that one thing that someone's always been pushing you to do, and it doesn't work, you immediately go, why did I do that?
Exactly.
Who cares about everything? That was 100%. Dumb. And just going back to characters not learning, like, he has not learned how to deal with grief.
No.
That is still his main flaw, is that he cannot deal with death, cannot deal with grief. And I absolutely, as much as it, one of those things where you hate a character because of the plot, but the scene where he just starts laying into Thanos.
Yeah.
It's one of those, why are you doing this? I know, like, I get it, though. I get
100%.
it. But just, they were so close.
They were but it 100% makes sense, and it really did not annoy me because of that scene where he pulls the trigger, because you are exactly right. If he had killed Gamora and he had saved the universe, I think, honestly, he would have been able, that would have been the moment where he comes to term with grief. He would have obviously grieved and he would have been distraught, but it would have taught him that there is, there's a price, and you get over it and you carry on living your life, that she wanted to die if that was the outcome. And because he doesn't get to do that, because he doesn't get that moment, you're right, he just goes 180. He goes, well, why the fuck would I then? Because I lost the one person I love. I lost the one thing that I was trying to be a good person for. He's got no other reason. Gamora was literally the only reason he was being a good person. Like, it makes so much sense. So when he's wailing on him and Tony is like, stop, you're like, stop. But also, Tony, you don't understand this. There's all this stuff. Sit down, let me explain to you why he's doing this.
Yeah. It's one of those scenes where it's like, I get it. Like, I get it. It sucks just because of, like, it leads to the, death of half the universe, but
Oh, man.
it's so great. And his interactions with Thor are great because it just pushes this man-child idea even further and further because, like, he can't just, the fact that there is this god here just pisses him off so much. He's just so upset.
But it also, it fortifies his relationship with Gamora. He is obsessed with her. Like, so much so that when Thor's aboard and she's impressed by him, it's not like she's, like, gonna leave Star-Lord for him. Like, she's just making these fun, quick jabs, like any, like, girlfriend would,
like, all of the characters on the ship do.
Yeah, but Star-Lord is so obsessed with her, and they show this through him, being intimidated, so that when the Gamora death happens, and when Star-Lord loses his mind, you buy it, because you've seen Star-Lord, like, pine over her, even in this movie. You didn't have to watch the Guardians movies to get it. Yeah. Like, it's so well done, and I do want to come a little bit full circle and talk about Thanos, because I think we mentioned the scene where Peter is wailing on him. The fact that Thanos almost loses the gauntlet is the best part of the end of the movie for me. Because the fact that he almost loses and that it is shown that he could have lost makes the fact that he won even more, like, heartbreaking. If he had come in and did everything exactly the same, but there wasn't that scene where they almost got the gauntlet off him, it wouldn't have been as excruciating when he won, because it would have been like, well, there was no way to stop him. He was always going to win. But the fact that they almost get the gauntlet off, it really makes the ending, for me anyway, hurt even more, because it's like he's not unbeatable.
Yeah. Any good wrestling match, Cameron Morris.
Oh, gosh, here we go.
There's this thing. So there's, let's say, a normal wrestling match between a good guy and a bad guy. Mm-hmm. You got what's called the heat. Oh. The heat of the match, which is when the bad guy's just wailing on the good guy, where he's just beating the bejesus out of him, and you're just like, oh man, come on, Shawn Michaels, get up, like, but he's just wailing on him, all right? And then there's this moment. It's called the hope spot.
Okay.
It's when they start fighting back, and they're about to get into their shit, and they get cut off.
Oh no!
And the beginning of the movie was the heat. Thanos was just wailing on him in the corner. And then we got the hope spot. And then Thanos cuts it off.
Oh,
and then it's why I think that the way that wrestling psychology works and tells stories is so interesting is because that's what this movie kind of was. Like, if you put, like, take aside, like, that there's a lot of scenes of dialogue and all this stuff, it's this escalation. Starting from Thanos, like, Thanos came from backstage and hit one of the good guy's best friends in the head with a chair and put him in the hospital, and then it just escalates and escalates, and then you get the hope spot. However, this time, the good guy doesn't come back. The bad guy just wins, and, the reign of terror begins.
It was fantastic, and I'll tell you what I loved about the fact that he almost loses, and then he comes back because of Peter, which I've already established. I completely respect that decision to make Peter do that. I think it made total sense for his character. And then what happens is we get the Thanos that we thought we were going to get at the beginning of the movie, but it makes way more sense now. It isn't this unstoppable force. It's this guy who is he's just been in inches of losing everything that he has built up to. He pulls himself back from the brink, and he is rejuvenated with a sense of, no, I'm the best. I am the one to do this. I almost lost, and I just brought it back because of my daughter. My daughter essentially saved me from beyond the grave. and then he teleports in, and he does not stop. Like,
he
dude,
wrecks shop on those
scene,
Avengers boys.
the scene where in the trailer where Cap is holding the
I
gauntlet
thought
up,
that was going to be a big scene.
he just bats him aside.
And then when, was it Cap who got, like, decked in the face, and it looked like he died there?
I think, yeah, that was Cap when he slaps him
Or
across
he just,
the face.
yeah, he just falls limp.
Oh my god. He takes the Hulkbuster and fuses it into a wall.
And then there was the scene where he gets the last stone is so excruciating because Scarlet Witch is the one character who Thanos could actually relate to. Because she just did what he had to do.
Yeah.
She's the only character who's had to physically make a choice like that, like he has. And so they have like this really tender moment between them. And then he just breaks your heart.
Oh, man.
Which honestly, it's one of those things where it's like, if that scene hadn't have happened and the movie ended with Vision dying and him not being able to get the last stone, whatever, there'd be some internet jerkbags going, well, he has a time stone, why didn't he just roll on time? And they just said, all right, we're doing it.
No, but I mean, it totally, like you said about the deaths, which we'll get into in a minute, just because it didn't happen, it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Just because he reversed time and then Thanos ended up killing Vision, it doesn't mean that Scarlet Witch still did not have to kill the man she loves. Like, the time travel stuff doesn't erase memories.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing to remember.
It built back together, basically.
And then, oh, dude, when she kills him, he explodes and he has this peace. When Thanos kills him, he goes completely dark. He just
and it was brutal. It was probably one of the most him and the Loki death are probably the most brutal ones.
Oh, 100%. I mean, Loki being snapped.
Yeah, that was. But then, like, him just crushing like his head and ripping it out, and you see the wires and
Jesus. And the light.
I like seeing brain matter. Like,
yeah, and the fact that his life force is kind of is visualized by his purple colors. You know, he's like such a happy guy. He's such a positive person. Even at the beginning of the movie, like, he's such a kind, caring, nice guy. And then when he dies, he just turns grey. He just completely is drained of all his life because he's just a husk now. And like, oh my god. Like, okay, this is it. We gotta talk about it. We gotta bite the bullet. People start disappearing. Thanos snaps his fingers. And it is mental.
So let's run down the list.
Okay, I want to talk about...
I'm going to start from least upsetting and then end with most.
Okay, I'll be interested in to see why you thought that.
So, these are characters that I loved, but because of how the disappearing happened, I didn't really get the full effect. Like, honestly, I love Black Panther, but it was so quick that I almost didn't register that it happened. Because he's just like, this is no place to die. But, gone. And I was like, wait, what? Huh? Like,
Get up, General.
Yeah, that was crazy. And then, who else? I'm trying to think of who all bit the bullet.
Okay,
Falcon?
I'll run down and you tell me what
Yeah,
you
we'll
think.
go through the list. Yeah.
Okay, so Scarlet Witch.
Oh, that was super upsetting because she just had to watch the man of her life die. And, there's no... The problem with these deaths is that they're peaceful in a way that they just wipe away from existence. But they just wipe away from existence. So, depending on whatever your beliefs are, like, there is no happy ending where she gets to be with Vision again in some afterlife or something, because she physically, like, literally the universe does not recognize that she ever existed. So that's horribly heartbreaking.
I thought for me, it was a little bit of bittersweet because I was like, oh god, that's gonna suck, but also, like, I don't know if she would have gone on, you know, like someone going through that. There was a part of me that was like, oh, at least she's at rest now.
Yeah,
like,
at least she doesn't have to deal with the emotional
Hmm.
trauma of having murdered the man of her dreams and then watching him die again.
Falcon, how do you feel about Falcon?
Um, I didn't care.
Yeah,
I
again,
like Falcon, but
really like him, but the way he died,
I
um,
felt bad for Rhodey, really.
oh yeah,
Which also, can we give it a hand to Don Cheadle in this movie?
yeah.
Like, honestly, I have not cared about Rhodey since Iron Man 3, probably. Even when that happened in Civil War, I was kind of like, oh, that's just a reason to make Tony upset. Like, he was
Hmm.
like a damsel in distress, basically. But in this movie, I was like, oh yeah, Rhodey is his own person.
Rhodey, I like Rhodey, but he was one of the source of the confusions for me. I don't know if anyone can clear this up for me. Uh, Russo brothers directed Civil War, and they directed this movie, so isn't even a creative difference. At the end of Civil War, he has one of my favorite scenes where he goes, "I know I lost my legs, but I still believe in what we did. I still believe that signing the Accords was the best idea." And then at the beginning of this movie, he just completely changed his mind. And
I would
like,
argue, giant alien coming, I guess.
yeah, I guess, but like, there's not that scene where he's like, "No, the giant alien changed my mind." You know, it's like it doesn't.
Yeah,
There's not a bit. I feel like they kind of banked on 2 years of physical therapy. You know, we just assumed that eventually it got to him. But then why
yeah.
even have that scene at the end of Iron Man? Because at the end of Civil War, because it was so impactful to me. Because I really liked the idea that there was still a character who did believe. Because there was lots and lots of characters that ended up on Cap's side at the end of the movie. But a lot of Tony's side, including Tony himself, were kind of divided at the end. Like, none of them really stuck to their guns, except for War Machine. War Machine was the only one that was like, "No, I'm still Team Iron Man, even if Iron Man isn't." Um, but it kind of bummed me out that he just kind of flip-flopped because the plot demanded it. However, it didn't bum me up that much. I was just kind of confused. I was like, did
And
I miss something?
I did like that he got more screen time, and that's always nice because he's, technically been there since the beginning. Not that actor, but
Yeah,
that character has been
yeah,
there since the
yeah,
beginning of this universe. So I'm really excited that he was one of the ones that remained. I hope that they
yeah.
have plans for him.
Yeah, 100%, I agree. Okay, so Falcon, I agree with you. I think it was sad when you see Rhodey, like, walking around being like, "Sam, Sam!"
Oh,
And,
that was the worst part because he's
well,
looking for him. It's like he's not going to find him.
this is my point, right? You said earlier about the deaths. You alluded to the fact that they were still sad, even though most of them are probably going to be erased, are going to come back. I would argue that, for me, they weren't sad because of the deaths. They were sad because of the other characters who live.
Yeah, who's left behind?
We'll get to the big one, but like a good example of this, I think, is Buck.
Yeah.
Like, did that feel for you? Because
That was honestly like I will not lie. I'm an unabashed like dumb shipper of those two
I think
in
everyone is.
this
Everyone who's
universe.
got a brain.
Yeah, because they have so much connection. But
And
just the
Sharon does
fact
not.
that I'm so glad that they got a hug at least.
Yeah,
They got to hug
yeah,
each other. But the fact that they are both finally in a place where they are like self-realized and self-actualized human beings,
yeah,
where Cap has progressed to honestly the place that makes the most sense for him in our current climate
yeah.
of this man without a country who still fights for good. Like that is
Mm.
honestly the one direction he should go in. It just makes the
Yeah,
most sense
hundred
for his
percent.
character. And Bucky's finally like kind of erased his demons and he's smiling and he has beautiful hair. And then they have it ripped away from them. And oh my God, someone pointed this out also. Captain America Winter Soldier. He sees Winter Soldier for the first time. He goes, "Buck?" And then last words Bucky say to Steve are, "Steve?" Like, oh,
Jeez.
it's so heartbreaking. Oh my gosh. The White Wolf, man.
Sebastian Stan gives it. I mean, he has very little time to give it, but he brings it in that
He
moment where he
gives it,
goes, "Steve." Like,
and he
it's
can
so
get
sad. It's. I talked over your joke. Um, um, he is so sad though. He's so just like a lost little boy. He's like, "Steve." Like, it's just like, oh man, like, it's so sad, and you really believe it. Building on I mean, we can kind of. Do you want to address all the ones that didn't really affect you, or should we just skip to the ones that did?
um yeah, weirdly like it's weird. Teenage Groot did not have a lot to do in this movie.
He became Thor's hammer, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, but I still, when that happened, it still hit me. I think it's just because I have an emotional connection to that character.
Yeah.
So it's just the fact that it's Groot, you know? Even though, like, this isn't the same Groot, whatever, all that stuff.
Yeah.
He's still, knowing what he will become makes that disappearance, like, so much worse.
Yeah, and for me, again, it goes back to the disappearance not really being about the characters for me. It's about Rocket. For me, it's about Rocket. He's like, oh, no. Like Bradley
this is
Cooper.
The second time he's had to go through this.
It's 2 Groots. He's lost 2 Groots. He's lost Groot,
also,
and he's lost Groot's son.
Rocket. Oh, when I start thinking more and more about certain characters, I feel like they don't always fit our mold. Because Rocket's a character who really seems like he learned his lesson in Guardians 2.
Yeah,
in this movie, he is not an asshole. Like, he's still, like, joking around, but it's, he cares about these people, and he doesn't want to push them away. And so to see this character who's finally gotten to this point where he's, like, an emotionally healthy raccoon, and then to just have the one main connection he has ripped away from him is,
I mean, depending on how you see Baby Groot, because, I mean, technically, according to James Gunn, and I like this, that Baby Groot is Groot's son.
Yeah.
I like that. A lot of people disagree. They think it's just Groot, but as a baby. I don't know. But I like that because it means that Groot literally gave Rocket his son and was like, look after my son. And he couldn't. Rocket ultimately failed. Like, it's so sad. Like, And the fact that Rocket's the only Guardian, that really tore me up. I mean, he doesn't even know at this point, but it is kind of sad that he's the last remaining Guardian. He was the one that was always afraid people were going to leave him. Like, Rocket is... There's that scene where Yondu goes, the reason you shout at people is because you are afraid of the hole that they'll leave when they actually eventually leave you. And after Guardians 2, he learns that, no, that's not the case. He can love people. And then they do leave him. It's, like, so sad.
Yeah, because Nebula is technically the only one who survives on Titan. But she's not really a Guardian.
She doesn't have that Rocket connection, I don't think. I don't think
so that was just... Oh, Rocket. A character who, in the first Guardians, I was like, I mean, he's entertaining, but
he has one good moment. He has one really good emotional moment where he's like, I didn't be asked to be made, But other than that, he's kind of just
other
like
than that, and then the second movie just really, and then this one even more, just hit it home that, like, Bradley Cooper, man. At first, he was one of those, like, oh, great, this is a guy doing a voice acting gig who doesn't really, like, probably care that much.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like at first. I'm like, really? Bradley Cooper, Rocket Raccoon? Okay, fine. But he really has been putting the work in.
Yeah, and he doesn't sound like Bradley Cooper either. Like, he really puts, like, a really good Rocket voice on. Like, especially when he laughs. I love Rocket's laugh. It's so good. So good. All right, I want to talk about...
Is there another one before this one?
Oh, dude. I guess Doctor Strange.
And Doctor Strange both go.
Kind of, I mean, alright. Like, as much as I love Star-Lord in this movie...
like, his... kind of his punishment.
Yeah, you could kind of see it that way. But really, Star-Lord... Doctor Strange has a cool moment where he goes...
Mantis and Drax, too.
Yeah, I do like Doctor Strange's line where he goes, "Now we're in the end game," and then he disappears. I was like, it's kind of because it's a final shitty thing for him to do, where he goes, "Oh yeah, by the way, you got to solve this because I'm leaving." Like, it's such
I love that it just fits with his like, he's like, "Oh, by the way, he's basically like, you're gonna thank me for this later," like. He's such a shitbag.
He is. He's the worst. He's the worst. But I think as a character who I think is the worst, he got a good ending for him. You know? I kind of liked Black Panther's death a little bit more than you because of the general. I thought it was a cool.
Oh, I am so I cannot explain how happy I am that A, Okoye survived, and B, that she got that dope scene with the other girls fighting Proxima Midnight. That's her name. And also she's just so funny. and so charismatic. I'm
Oh,
so happy that she's going to get more screen time.
can we just please? I just want to shoehorn him in. I know he did nothing really, but he's my favorite Black Panther character.
M'Baku?
M'Baku coming back.
He's so good. I
I
love him
love
so much.
M'Baku's my favorite character in all of Black Panther. I think he kills it, and I'm not just saying that because he's funny. He is funny. I know he's funny, but he also has really awesome character growth that is done in so little screen time, but somehow they pull it off. Like, he's barely in the movie, but he goes through a really nice arc, and I like that they carry that on in this. So much so that some of the factions of Wakanda don't show up. They don't. Like, the guy from Get Out, I can't remember his name, but their faction I don't think shows up, or maybe he's just not there. But M'Baku, who, they don't have technology. M'Baku's tribe refused to use technology. They still fight the aliens. Like, what the fuck? That's so cool.
It's so great. And also that, let's just shout out to the beginning of the Wakanda war battle.
Oh, that was
Where
cool.
they're just chanting and it's so great. And Shuri also.
Shuri's great. Shuri's
She's
always great.
She's amazing. And I love that she is the smartest person in that universe.
Yeah.
She's
100%.
just like, why didn't you guys do this, you idiots? And they're like, Bruce Banner's like, because we didn't think about it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, who are you, 13-year-old girl?
I thought that was great, but again, like M'Baku, I just want to give him a special shout out because it's going to get dark real soon. He was really good, and I love that they keep on his kind of thing where his tribe chants like apes. Yeah. Like, I really like that they were still going, ooh, ooh, but this time they were side by, instead of being aggressors to T'Challa, they were side by side, standing next to each other. That was badass. That was really cool. Oh my god,
Cameron, why did they David Tennant me? Why did they do it?
I don't want to go.
So you know why my theory is that it took longer for him?
Why?
It's the spider sense. It's because he started to feel like his spider sense went into overdrive. It went into overdrive because he knew, like, his body was like, look, something bad's happening. Like, I feel like there's this like thing that I read, whatever, where it's like that makes it really sad. Where they were like, his spider sense went into overdrive, and he started feeling everyone disappearing.
Oh god, like Obi-Wan.
Yeah, like Obi-Wan, except 1,000 times worse. And that's why he started, like, at first he was like, I don't feel so good. And then it finally happens to him.
That's true.
He could feel it, like, coming on him.
You're right, because most of the characters don't even, unless they look at themselves, they don't even realize it's happening to them until it's happening. Like T'Challa, he's like, get up, this isn't the place to, stop, and then he obviously is fading away. Buck looks at his hand and realizes what's happening, but Spider-Man's the only one who goes, oh, I'm feeling sick, And that 100% makes sense, especially because they set that up at the beginning of the movie with showing his spider sense, which I thought was right.
Oh my god.
But again, more so, as much as that was sad, Spider-Man, that was more sad to me because of Iron Man. Like, we know Spider-Man's going to come back. He's got a sequel. We know he's coming back. What was sad to me isn't that he's gone and died. It was that Tony had to watch his son disappear, and he doesn't know that he's not responsible.
Yeah.
Tony doesn't know that if, I'm sure that it was completely random, but Tony doesn't know that.
To go back to the Tumblr gift sets, but there was a scene from Avengers. I'm going to bring up two separate scenes from separate movies that inform Tony's reactions and his feelings during that moment. One was from Age of Ultron, where he's talking to Nick Fury and he's talking about his vision. And Nick Fury is like, you weren't scared because everyone died. You were scared because you were the only one left. And then there's a scene from Homecoming where he's like, look, you don't get to go out and do dangerous stuff because if you die, that's on my head.
Oh my god. That first one.
Yeah.
That first one is good as well because I was thinking about it the other day. It's just him and Nebula.
Yeah.
You could argue he's got it worse.
Captain Everyone's alive. Like, he could, for all he knows, he thinks that they're dead too.
Okay. A little bit extra spoilery. I'm going to ask you before I even mention it. Have you seen the set pictures for Avengers 4?
No.
Okay. Do you want me to tell you, or should I just
Yeah.
not?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I think we're going to know this when they start advertising the movie anyway. There is a scene, and it is the most excited I have been for a movie in so long. After watching this movie, they released a set photo of Tony with grey hair, wearing the same clothes he's wearing on Titan, but he's got grey hair and he's got a big, well, not a big scraggly beard, but he's got a more scraggly beard. He's like pleading with Captain America from Avengers 1, and they're in New York during the attack, and I was like, dude, like it makes so much sense. Tony is on a planet in the middle of nowhere with Nebula and no one else. There is going to be some crazy stuff that he's going to have to do just to get back to Earth, and I cannot wait to see how he gets there. It is so... Tony being alone on a planet is almost the most exciting thing at the end of this movie. Like, it is so good. But yeah, him holding... My one thing,
I've been agreeing with you on all the deaths, but I will argue, Tom Holland's acting makes me sad for Peter, but then also just... So Spider-Man Homecoming did something really good, where they grounded the story, made it very small, and there's this amazing scene which parallels a famous Spider-Man scene where he's under the building.
Oh, yes.
But my favorite part of that isn't the part where he actually lifts it up and he, talks himself into it. It's the part before that where he starts screaming for help. And you can hear that like little kid like crack in his voice.
It hurts. It hurts
and it's the thing
watch.
Where it's like, I feel like Peter's death and then the after credits scene are both two scenes that very much ground what is actually happening. Because it reminds you that like, holy shit, this is a child. This is a child who's being erased from existence. Like the story, like instantly I think because like with all the stuff in Wakanda, you're just like, okay, like, yeah, some of the heroes are going away or whatever, but this is what they signed up for,
Yeah.
But like with Peter, it's like, oh God, you haven't graduated high school yet. Like you're probably in this moment, like his mom, his best friend, all of this stuff is probably running through his head right now. Of like, are they okay? And like, it's just one of those that really grounds what's happening in like this really real human emotion.
Totally, I 100%
and then
agree
also
with you.
Just oh my God, that after credits scene.
Look, as far as after credit scenes go, it's quite interesting how, because a lot of the time it's a toss up between two things. One, it's an extra little secret little thing that maybe is hinting towards future movies, or alternatively, it's a scene that should have been in the movie. Black Panther's first after the credit scene should have been in the movie. I'm a little bit annoyed at it because it is so important to T'Challa's arc. But it really, like, for those of you who don't know, it's the scene where he's in the court and he's announced Wakanda is going to, like, open its borders and stuff.
I feel like this scene where they were like, oh, we don't really know what to do for an after credit scene. Okay, just move this here. It'll work.
Yeah, 100%. I felt like it should have come before the Compton bit. But anyway, so there's that or there's that. This one does both. This one, it recontextualizes the story you just watched while also then tagging a little extra special, guess who's coming, and...
Which, oh my gosh, I think the thing about it wasn't even, seeing Marie Hill again, which honestly, I was surprised that I felt something for her disappearing. I was like, oh no, Marie Hill. I think it's because it's Colby Smulders also, and I love her. I think she's fantastic. But
let's go to the mall.
The mall. The scariest thing was the true horror aspect of what is happening. The cars crashing into other cars, the helicopters crashing. It was honestly scenes that are like reminiscent of like domestic terrorism.
When Thanos gets all of the stones and he explodes with power, that scene is not as loud as that helicopter crash. That helicopter crash is the loudest thing in the movie, and it shocks the audience. Like, I love watching it in the cinema because I don't look at the screen anymore. I just look at the audience, and they are way more shocked by the helicopter than they are at Nick Fury's like disappearance, because I mean they kind of make a joke about that.
Actually, yeah, that was the weirdest thing. Was people laughed a little bit when he's like mother.
Yeah,
because it's like okay, like that's kind of funny. I also leapt out of my seat at the Captain Marvel thing though.
Oh, dude, that was the thing. They knew that we geeks knew she was coming at some point.
Yeah.
But they couldn't have done it in a better way. Like they were like, we got you coming.
And I love that it gives you an idea of what to expect from her movie. Because I was worried, the movie's set in the 90s, I'm like, how is she gonna meet with the Avengers? How is that gonna happen? Yeah. Obviously, we're gonna get an origin story. She's gonna have to do some sort of either like self-sacrifice thing or something to save the planet from whatever. And then we're going to get, I'm imagining for Ant-Man and Wasp and this movie, the post-credit scene is going to be Infinity War.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, they beat the bad guy, they're all happy, and then all of a sudden what's the second Wasp called?
Her name's Evangeline Lilly.
Yeah.
She's not Janet. She's what's her name?
Janet is the first. Janet Van Dyne.
Yeah,
is
Janet
the first
Van Dyne.
Wasp, right?
Crap, I feel really bad. I watched the movie.
Well, yeah, okay. So
her name is Evangeline Lilly.
Scott's girlfriend, the Wasp. They're going to be like, yay! They're going to kiss, and then all of a sudden she's going to disappear. I think that's what's going to be the end of Ant-Man and Wasp.
I'm very curious about who's going to disappear because I don't. It might be her. It might be him. We might even see Michael Douglas disappear.
I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Douglas doesn't just die in the movie. Like,
oh, true, yeah.
I don't know,
but anyway. And then I'm imagining Captain Marvel's post-credit scene is going to be her getting the message and maybe either waking up out of some chamber or like her being out in space and maybe getting the message, something like that to explain why she's not on Earth.
Let's do some more speculating because my assumption, however it's supposed to be said, is that she takes. At the end of her movie, she will take up the mantle of Marvel. Like, that's what I've always kind of assumed is why she's not around, is because after Marvel
she's with
dies...
the Kree, maybe?
Yeah, she's going to go, and maybe she'll even have something to do with why the Kree signed with the
Nova Corps.
Yeah, they signed the ceasefire, because Ronin is going to be in her movie, and... so is Ronin's crony, you know, the one who's like, who? When Star-Lord is like, my name's Star-Lord. So I gotta assume that she, you know, Jude Law as Marvel comes to Earth. You get the whole Captain Marvel story that you do or do not know, depending on if you read the comics. And then when she takes the mantle, she goes, well, now it's my responsibility to go, you know, save the fucking Kree.
And maybe she leaves a device with Nick Fury and Coulson, like, hey, if Earth ever needs me. Yeah. And maybe, you could also argue that that's why Nick Fury was like, I need to do this Avengers program because we're not going to have Captain Marvel here. I need my own team here that can protect us.
Yeah, and I like the idea of her even influencing the Avengers program.
Yeah.
Of her, you know, she saves the Earth maybe from something, and then he goes, we need more of you. Like, we need more.
Yeah.
Stuff. Dude, I am honestly very, very excited because Captain Marvel is a character that I think after her resurgence, she became one of the most interesting characters ever. Like, I was never a big Miss Marvel fan. I don't know why. I don't know. I never really got into it.
The costumes also was really weird. It was not a good costume.
I kind of felt like a Wonder Woman ripoff or like I don't know. It felt a little bit, you know, those Marvel characters where they're like, this is kind of just you trying to do DC. But then when she got the kind of the cosmic kind of themes that she was going through, she got that cool like space mask that she got. And she kind of started messing with the Guardians, and I don't know. I really got into it. There's a scene in Captain Marvel Volume 1. Which is really, really awesome, which I love. It's like, it's her and Captain America fighting. Yeah. And
she outranks him.
It's so good because I really hope they kind of, maybe not even that line, but just that kind of, that sentiment of Captain Marvel is the top dog when it comes to Marvel heroes.
Yeah.
Like, she's basically their Superman. And to see, like, and again, not to get super feminist, but to see a woman come with the most powerful superpowers and solve everyone's problems would be so, so cool.
That's
like,
the thing I'm so interested in, because obviously she's going to play a role in the next Avengers movie.
Yes.
So the team that we have, because I don't think we fully like said who all's still alive. So it's interestingly enough the core cast of Avengers.
Avengers 1, yeah, the
Avengers
the main
1 team. Depending on Hawkeye, we'll probably find out in Ant-Man and the Wasp if Hawkeye's still around.
I gotta assume he's gonna be.
I assume he's
gonna be
back.
okay, because I feel like if they went through the trouble of saving Widow and the other 4, they would have kept him. Because I feel like it's gonna be like the old team has to get back together, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that's 100%. Like, I feel like the Avengers need to learn how to be the Avengers again.
Yeah.
Because even though like they all had, there were team ups, but they were all very separate. And the next movie is going to be they need to come together and they need to be the team that saved New York again.
They need to do it one more time. Oh,
yeah,
so cool. And I think.
But then we also have Nebula, Rocket, Okoye, War Machine,
M'Baku,
Shuri. Hopefully, we're not sure.
We're not Shuri.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That's it for non-core Avengers.
Yeah, Rhodey, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure. She outranked, but yeah.
Oh, sorry, you might have said sorry.
I don't remember, but yeah, that's it.
It's gonna be interesting. I mean, dude, I look. I think that ultimately it's going to come down to Steve and Tony. Like, this, we're still feeling the repercussions of Civil War. He doesn't end up calling him.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at the movie, he never ends up actually calling him or even talking to Steve. They still haven't made up. Like, not that I think they would need to after this event. But I do think the next movie is going to deal with the fact that they need to make up. They need to come back together, like you said. They need to find that spark that they found in the first Avengers movie.
So the important question, I think, is who's going to hold the gauntlet?
I've been thinking that.
Are we going to have
weekend.
a Guardians 1 scene where they all hold hands? Like, because I feel like that, not to say it'd be hokey, but it might feel a little weird if we retread the same ending as Guardians 1 where, like, they all use the power.
There are 6 Avengers and 6 stones.
Yeah.
That could work depending on how they play it, because you could see Guardians 1 as the setup for that.
Yeah. Or Captain Marvel uses it.
I don't know. I feel like Captain Marvel is going to be used in this way. I think she is going to pave the way for the Avengers to come back together. She is going to be like, she's going to be like their mum. She's going to be like, right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and now it's up to you. Like, I think that's really what...
Yeah, because they really have to make sure she doesn't feel too much like a Deus Ex Machina. Like, she 100%. Just comes in and solves all the problems.
Yeah, and I think having her have her own movie is going to help that, but it's not going to 100% solve it if she comes in and picks up the gauntlet. Ultimately, I think that... Before you said, I really like that idea of them all getting assigned a stone that matches them.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I think that would be really, really cool. Not sure who would have what. I think that's a whole other podcast topic. Like, which Infinity Stone. It's obvious to, like, go with Stark. But I don't know. But,
and then, I mean, or Cap or Tony, maybe. Or, I mean, Thor technically, I think, wouldn't have any problem holding it.
No, I feel like...
So that is an interesting thing of, like, because obviously he is at the same level of Thanos. They are at the same... Especially now that he has Stormbringer, they are, like, on the same level.
Yeah.
So he could probably hold it with no problem. I feel like we're going to get a Cap or Tony thing. Or Cap and Tony.
I think one of them, if not both of them, is going to have to use it. I honestly think the way this movie goes, the Tony is going to be the one to die if that or either of both of them die, because the way that Tony acts in this movie is so, like, he's just at the end of the road, you know.
Yeah.
And he has something to lose. You could argue that Cap doesn't have anything to lose now. because he failed, and also he couldn't save Buck. Whereas I feel like Tony not seeing Potts again, or maybe seeing her one more time. I don't know. There's so many ways this could go.
I do feel like we are going to get. I thought Tony was going to die in this movie, just because we've had 10 years of these movies. It started with Tony. It had to end with Tony.
Yeah.
I still have that thought process of Tony is going to probably be a martyr in some way, shape, or form. But I do think we are. I really hope we get this scene. I was surprised we didn't get it in this movie, just because we didn't really get a lot with Cap. But he's either something's going to happen where him and Tony both get the gauntlet and they get transported into different whatevers.
Yeah.
Cap is going to get that last dance. Or get that dance. He's in that dance, and I cannot wait to bawl in that movie theater when it happens.
Yeah, I think he's going to die. He's going to get the dance and die. I think that's it's really the only way. But again, the fact that
part of me wants him. So this is a weird out there theory. So we see Peggy Carter in Winter Soldier.
Yes.
She said she has a husband. We never see him. Cap goes back in time, decides to stay with Peggy.
Because that means he makes out with his granddaughter.
Yeah, okay, that is weird.
Sharon is the worst. She throws a wrench in everything.
I love that actress, though. I love that actress.
She was a good actress. It's so obvious that he's in love with Bucky.
Weird. Yeah, I really just maybe him and Buck will go into the sunset together finally. But yeah, do you have any ideas? Because they say the title is a spoiler.
I think it's going to be called either. It's either going to be like a describing word that is like, oh shit, no. Here's my theory, right? It's either going to be a word that references the ending of Infinity War.
Yeah.
Because that's why they couldn't reveal it, because it is something like, I don't know how they would use it, but it refers to the fact that that all those people die, you know?
Avengers, half of them are dead.
Yeah.
So
or, alternatively,
I already have names.
You already have names? Because I was thinking, I heard a rumor, I'm not sure if this is, I don't know. Here's what I'm thinking. I heard a couple rumors on the internet, I don't know where they came from, that, you're going to have to help me out here, I'm not a Marvel guy. Who is the big bad guy who isn't Thanos? And isn't Galactus? He's like a warlord.
Not
Mobius. Kang.
Oh, Kang the Conqueror.
Kang the Conqueror. I have a theory that maybe Kang.
Oh my god, that would make sense to time travel because he travels across time.
100%, and also it would prove to Thanos that he was wrong. If Kang starts fucking shit up, even after Thanos has done this, Thanos will be like, I was wrong. I was 100% wrong. Kang, even though I deleted half the universe, Kang is still causing war and havoc, and now I'm going to have to bring back all those Avengers that I killed. That's all I got so far.
So, my two titles are, not that. One of them is, Endgame.
Ooh.
That'd be fun because Doctor Strange says Endgame, but that's not super spoiler. Another one is Forever. Avengers Forever. Which is kind of like, I believe that was the name of a comic series or whatever. But because of the idea of going back and having the original Avengers and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Those are really the two that kind of stick out in my head the most.
Yeah,
Especially because they use Endgame so prominently of this is Endgame. It's very specific, this is a phrase you need to keep track of for some reason.
No, 100%. I think, I don't know. The reason I jumped to Kang is because there's been spatterings of people thinking that Kang is going to be in the next one, and the only way Kang makes sense to me is if he is that answer to Thanos' theory. It's the thing that proves Thanos wrong. But I really do think that might be potentially rushing Kang. We have had so much build up to Thanos, and then all of a sudden Kang comes out of nowhere. I don't know, but the fact that the Russos were like, we can't tell you what the next movie is, I feel like having it be called Avengers something to do with Kang, you know, I don't know, maybe Lost in Time. That's so cheesy, but like, yeah, I don't know. It's very it's the most excited I've been for a Marvel movie in a long, long while. I came out of Avengers 3 feeling like so excited for Avengers 4, which is funny because I wasn't super excited for Avengers 3. Like, it proved me wrong in so many ways. Dude, this movie was great. This movie was fantastic.
It was so good. It was everything I could have wanted from this movie, knowing especially that we have more to come.
Can I end this on a kind of a weird little thing? I want to talk about some of the jokes, because I feel like we talked so seriously throughout this entire review, and we treated it very seriously. But this is, for the first half of this movie, it is a very, very funny movie. And there are some jokes.
It has some of my favorite jokes in, like, the movies.
Can we just go back and forth? Because I love, I mean, fuck man, one of my first favorite jokes was when he's trying to turn into the Hulk and it's not working, and then Tony goes, dude, you're embarrassing me in front of the wizards.
In front of the wizards. One of my favorite jokes was, like, from the beginning, where I have a child.
Yeah. She likes the movie too.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, she would not see it. That is too much. But one of my favorite jokes is when Thor's just like, oh, well, you haven't fought me. And he's just like, well, he just beat you. Well, you know, he hasn't fought me twice.
Oh, God, it's so good. There are loads. One of the most innocent, like, this was the most character building that Cap got in the whole movie, and I don't mean that as a joke, where fucking Groot goes, I am Groot, and Cap goes, I am Steve Rogers. It's just so genuine and so, like, wholesome. Like, he just waves and he's like, I am Steve Rogers.
It's so good. And then just the whole bit with Star-Lord and Thor, where Star-Lord's like doing the fake Thor, like Asgardian accent stuff, and it's so good.
It's good. I think it gets a little bit weird when he starts, like, repeating him. Like he's a child, but again, that's adding to the whole man-child thing, I think. There's a line where I don't actually know what the full line is because I laughed too hard at the first word. So if you could clarify it for me. Spider-Man pops up out of nowhere, and someone goes, where do you come from? And Spider-Man says, the future. It makes no sense, but I just love it. And then he says something else, but I couldn't hear him because I was laughing too hard, and the whole cinema was just laughing because he just pops up and he goes, where do you come from? The future. Like, what the fuck? I don't know, man.
Yeah, I actually don't remember that part.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those fast fight moments where you're just missing things and there's jokes coming all over the place. I mean, another one of those that I almost missed was when Star-Lord puts the bomb on Thanos' back and then does a middle finger and jumps through a portal. It's like so fucking Star-Lord. Oh, man. So good.
And then even during the Thanos fight, there's the great part where Spider-Man's jumping through Doctor Strange's portals. And he's hitting Thanos. And it's just, it's so funny. Even in, like, a really serious moment.
Yeah, he's like, portal kick. Portal punch, portal kick. Oh, God. You really get the sense that he's like a kid in those moments as well. Like, it is really good. There were some jokes, very rarely, that I was like, I could have left that out. It would have been a bit more dramatic. But I don't know. They were kind of worth it, you know. So you kind of like the bit where Thor and Cap see each other, and then Cap goes, "Oh, you cut your hair," and then he's like, "You're copying me with a beard." Like, it was really funny, but a part of me was like, "Come on, man, you're fighting in a giant battle." But it wasn't funny joke, so I don't know. It's kind of a, you know, you give some, you get some.
Yeah.
But man, this movie was so good, and I think this. I was really glad that we kind of had kind of a through line through this. I think we dealt with this review really well. Final thoughts. If you haven't seen this movie, you've ruined the whole experience by listening to this podcast. If you have seen this movie, please comment below what you thought of it. You can give it an arbitrary score if you want, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, Infinity Stones out of Infinity Stones, whatever you want. I just like to, have a discussion with people in the comments if they did listen to this.
And let us know if you found anything else with our weird thematic through line that we figured out, or if you found stuff that just completely blows it apart, because it is something that we made up on the go.
Yeah, I mean, the fun thing I find with movies, a lot of people don't, they get annoyed by this, but I like seeing and speculating as to maybe the deeper meaning behind the characters. Maybe it was just all coincidental. But that's kind of what I found from the characters and watching the movie. I don't know if people want us to go a bit more specific with this film. Like maybe when it comes out on DVD, we can maybe do a commentary. We can figure that out, bring that back from when we used to do Green Lantern commentaries.
Oh, gosh.
But I definitely think we're going to be talking about this movie for a lot longer than just this one podcast.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Speaking of Infinity War, I think you uploaded a video on the Wi-Fi Friends channel that people can check out right now.
Yes, the lowest viewed video. Just kidding. No, so I talk about a 2013 Marvel Comics event. So very, very topical.
It's was it the one inspired by Thanos being at the end of Avengers? I think they saw that and they rushed to get like a Thanos story out, didn't they?
I think so. This is the one that where a lot of Infinity War took some stuff from, like the Black Order, the Children of Thanos. All those characters are from this storyline. So I talk about it. It's got an A story and a B story. Weirdly enough, I read that book because of the Thanos stuff. Thanos stuff was not the stuff I was most interested in.
Huh, fair enough.
Yeah. It's really well written. It's Jonathan Hickman. Check out the video. It's like 9-10 minutes about a 2-year-old book. Or no, longer than 2 years. Holy crap.
Yeah, way older than that. If you guys want us to make any specific videos on Avengers Infinity War, maybe go a bit more in depth, just comment below. We make anything on this channel. I'm working on a video about a beach. It's got nothing to do with geeky stuff. I've been working on a video about a beach, and this is what we want to do with this channel. We want to branch out. We want to do crazy stuff. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me, John. I very much enjoyed talking to you about this movie.
I don't want to go.
Oh my God, no. People can find you on Twitter, obviously.
Yeah, yo, check us out on Twitter, yo. Hit that follow, smash that like button, comment below, subscribe. And until next time, we're a bunch of married boys talking about some hot topics.